Are you really going to make this man wait? Don't you see he's in pain? The voice cuts through the steady hum of the hospital emergency room like a scalpel. Heads turn toward the check-in desk where a young woman in scrubs stands with her hands planted firmly on the counter, leaning toward the administrator behind it. Her words hang in the air as the fluorescent lights buzz overhead. The busy hospital waiting room pauses momentarily before resuming its steady rhythm of beeping monitors, squeaking shoes on linoleum, and the quiet conversations of worried family members. It's early evening, shift change at Memorial General Hospital, typically the busiest time in the ER. Seated on a hard plastic chair against the wall is an older man, perhaps in his late 60s. His weathered hands grip a wooden cane planted between his feet. His shoulders are hunched slightly forward. His face drawn with pain he's clearly trying to mask. Despite his discomfort, there's something dignified in his posture, a kind of quiet stoicism that speaks of long practice at enduring hardship without complaint. He's been waiting for nearly 4 hours. The waiting room has cycled through dozens of patients while he sits patiently, occasionally shifting to find relief from whatever pain plagues him. His clothes are worn but meticulously clean, faded jeans, a button-up shirt, and a light jacket despite the warm evening. A small pin glints almost imperceptibly on his lapel. The administrator behind the desk looks up from his computer with visible annoyance. He's young, maybe mid-30s, in an expensive suit that seems out of place among the scrubs and casual clothes that populate the room. His eyes narrow at the nurse's intervention. "Ma'am, we have protocols. Everyone gets seen according to our triage system," he says loudly enough for the entire waiting room to hear. No exceptions. The old man doesn't react to becoming the center of attention. He simply stares ahead, his eyes focused on some distant point only he can see, while the tension in the room builds like a gathering storm. The old man they're arguing about is Robert Williams, 68 years old, though the lines etched into his face suggest he's lived those years twice over. His silver-gray hair is cut in a precise military style that hasn't changed in 5 decades, short on the sides, slightly longer on top, exactly as regulations permitted during his service. Despite the pain evident in his eyes, his back remains straight, an instinctive posture that decades of civilian life haven't erased from his muscle memory. His hands, resting on the carved wooden cane between his knees, bear the marks of hard work and harder combat: calloused palms, a slight tremor in the right one, and a missing portion of his left index finger. The cane itself is unadorned except for a small Marine Corps emblem carefully inlaid at the top, worn smooth from years of gripping. His clothes are simple but meticulously maintained. A faded blue button-up shirt pressed to perfection, worn jeans without a single stain, and boots that still hold a hint of polish despite their age. Nearly invisible unless you're looking for it, a small Vietnam service pin is affixed to his jacket lapel, his only outward indication of military service. What isn't visible are the pieces of shrapnel still embedded near his spine, the titanium rod in his left leg, and the nightmares that still wake him 5 decades after coming home. Across the room, Hospital Administrator Jeff Blackwood glances at his watch, an expensive timepiece that seems to announce his importance more than tell time. At 36, he's risen quickly through the hospital's management ranks, his MBA and connections serving him better than bedside manner ever could. His tailored charcoal suit sets him apart from the medical staff in their scrubs and lab coats. His Italian leather shoes have never seen the inside of an operating room. Blackwood's clean-shaven face holds a permanent expression of mild annoyance, as if everyone around him is constantly failing to meet his standards. His designer glasses frame cold eyes that rarely make contact with patients. They're too busy scanning spreadsheets and efficiency reports. The hospital board considers him a financial wizard for cutting costs and streamlining operations. The medical staff has other, less flattering names for him. "Sir, I understand your frustration, but Mr. Williams has been waiting for over 4 hours," the nurse continues, lowering her voice. Her name tag reads Saracen, RN. "That's how triage works," Blackwood responds dismissively. "Critical cases first." His paperwork isn't even complete. No insurance card, no proper ID, just some outdated VA card. "We can't prioritize every senior citizen with aches and pains." The room has grown quieter as more people tune into the exchange. An elderly couple exchange glances. A mother pulls her child closer. A security guard shifts uncomfortably by the entrance. Comment: "Respect our veterans if you believe those who serve deserve better than to be dismissed as paperwork problems." Robert Williams shifts slightly in his seat, wincing as a jolt of pain shoots up his spine. After 4 hours of waiting, the hard plastic chair has become its own form of torture. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a faded VA benefits card, looking at it with resignation before slowly pushing himself to his feet. Leaning heavily on his cane, he makes his way toward the check-in desk where Blackwood and Nurse Chun are still engaged in their tense exchange. "Excuse me," Williams says, his voice quiet but carrying a natural authority that makes both of them turn. "I don't mean to cause trouble. I was told to come here after they couldn't fit me in at the VA hospital. They were supposed to send my records ahead." Blackwood looks down at the computer screen without really acknowledging Williams. "Nothing in our system. And you still need proper identification and insurance information." His fingers tap impatiently on the counter. "We can't just take walk-ins claiming to be veterans without documentation." "My wallet was stolen last week," Williams explains, placing his VA card on the counter. "This is all I have right now." The VA office said they'd call ahead to explain the situation. Blackwood slides the card back without looking at it. "That's not sufficient. We need current, government-issued photo ID and proof of insurance." His voice rises slightly, carrying across the waiting room. "If the VA wants to treat you, you should wait for an opening there." "Sir," Nurse Chun interjects, "we received a call about a transfer patient." "This could be, I handle transfers," Blackwood cuts her off sharply. "And I didn't approve any transfer from the VA today." Williams stands quietly, one hand gripping his cane, the other pressed against his lower back. A thin sheen of sweat has formed on his forehead despite the cool air conditioning. "The pain's getting worse," he says simply. "The doctor at the VA said I shouldn't wait. Something about metal fragments shifting." A few other patients have begun watching the exchange. An elderly woman whispers to her husband. A young man in a college sweatshirt looks uncomfortable, glancing between his phone and the confrontation unfolding at the desk. "Everyone here has pain, Mr. Williams," Blackwood says with exaggerated patience. "That's why they come to a hospital. But without proper documentation, you'll need to wait until we've seen all properly registered patients." He emphasizes the word properly as if teaching a child. Williams nods slowly. "I understand protocols, sir. Served 24 years following them. But the VA doctor said Vietnam was what, 50 years ago?" Blackwood interrupts, not bothering to hide his dismissive tone now. "You can't expect special treatment forever because you were in the military half a century ago." The waiting room falls completely silent. Even the usual hospital noises seem muted. Nurse Chin's face flushes with anger, but before she can speak, Williams straightens his back despite the obvious pain it causes him. "Never expected special treatment," he says quietly. "Just the treatment I was promised when I took 3 rounds pulling my men out of a hot LZ outside Da Nang." His voice doesn't rise, but there's a steely quality to it now. "The VA doctor said it was urgent. Said pieces might be moving toward my spine." Blackwood's expression hardens. "I'll need to see transfer orders and proper documentation. Hospital policy. If you keep disrupting my emergency room, I'll have security escort you out." A security guard by the door shifts uncomfortably, clearly hoping he won't be called to remove the elderly veteran. Several patients look away, embarrassed to witness the confrontation but unwilling to intervene. "Son," Williams says, his voice still calm but carrying a weight that makes Blackwood blink. "I've been standing at attention longer than you've been alive. I can wait. Just hope whatever's moving inside me can wait too." The emergency room's automatic doors slide open with a hydraulic hiss. The sound wouldn't normally draw attention in a busy hospital, but something about the deliberate way they part makes every head turn. The evening sunlight silhouettes 3 black government SUVs pulled up directly to the entrance, emergency lights silently flashing. The vehicles bear discreet Department of Defense markings. 6 uniformed military personnel enter first, 2 Air Force, 2 Army, 2 Marines, all with the crisp bearing of elite security details. They position themselves strategically around the waiting room's perimeter, standing at parade rest. Their presence transforms the civilian space instantly. The 7th person to enter wears a tailored dark suit rather than a uniform, but the military precision in his stride makes his background unmistakable. Silver-haired and broad-shouldered, he carries the unmistakable authority of high command despite his civilian attire. The small American flag pin on his lapel is complemented by a tiny pin that only those familiar with Pentagon insignia would recognize: Office of the Medical Affairs Director. Behind him enters a uniformed military doctor and two medics carrying specialized equipment cases with medical corps insignia. "Secure the area," the man in the suit says quietly, and the military personnel subtly adjust their positions. His eyes scan the room methodically until they fall on Williams. The older veteran has managed to return to his seat, still clutching his cane, pain etching deeper lines into his weathered face. The Pentagon official's expression changes instantly from stern assessment to profound recognition. "Sergeant Major Williams," he calls across the waiting room, his authoritative voice carrying easily. "Robert Williams, 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines." Williams instinctively attempts to stand at the recognition of his name and rank, military muscle memory overriding even his obvious pain. He barely makes it halfway up before wincing. The official crosses the room with long strides, waving him back down. "Please, sir, remain seated." There's genuine concern in his voice now. "I'm Brigadier General James Harrington, Pentagon Medical Affairs. We've been looking for you." Williams looks genuinely surprised. "General? I don't understand. When your scheduled follow-up was flagged as missed at Walter Reed, we started tracking your case." Harrington kneels down to Williams' eye level, something generals rarely do. "Your service record came across my desk. I couldn't believe it was the same Sergeant Major Williams who pulled 14 wounded Marines through heavy fire at Keysan." The waiting room has fallen completely silent again, but now with a different quality, a dawning realization among the onlookers. "You saved my father's life that day, sir," Harrington continues, his voice carrying just enough to be heard by everyone present. "Lieutenant Michael Harrington, wounded by mortar fire. You carried him over a kilometer of open terrain under enemy fire. He never forgot. None of us did." Behind them, Blackwood has emerged from behind his desk, his expression wavering between confusion and concern. "The Medal of Honor and 3 Purple Hearts aren't just decorations, Mr. Williams," Harrington says, standing and turning toward Blackwood with steel in his eyes. "They represent the nation's highest recognition of valor, and they come with certain promises about care." The military doctor has approached now, already examining Williams with professional efficiency. The medics set up portable equipment with practice speed. "Sir," the doctor says to Harrington after a quick assessment, "the fragments appear to be shifting as described in the VA report. We should move quickly." Harrington nods and turns to face Blackwood directly. "My understanding is that Sergeant Major Williams was denied timely care despite an urgent transfer request from the VA Medical Center." His voice has returned to the commanding tone of a general officer expecting answers. "Care for a combat injury sustained while saving 14 American servicemen." Blackwood stutters slightly. "We have protocols, and without proper—" "I'm familiar with hospital protocols," Harrington interrupts. The military personnel have subtly repositioned themselves, forming a loose perimeter around Williams and the medical team now attending to him. "I'm also familiar with Presidential Directive 1423 regarding critical care for Medal of Honor recipients and the Federal Veterans Emergency Care Act, Section 12. Harrington produces an official-looking document from his suit jacket. This is a direct order from the Secretary of Defense authorizing immediate specialized care for Sergeant Major Williams. Those metal fragments near his spine are shrapnel from the grenade he threw himself on to shield his squad." He pauses, letting the information sink in. The grenade that didn't fully detonate, the one that earned him the Medal of Honor. The waiting room has transformed into something resembling a military command center. The military medical team works efficiently around Williams, their movements practiced and precise. Other patients watch in stunned silence as the scene unfolds before them. Blackwood's face has drained of color. "I wasn't aware of his status." "The system didn't flag the system?" Harrington cuts him off, his voice dangerously calm. "The system is why we're here. The VA sent complete documentation 3 times. They made 5 phone calls to this hospital, all apparently lost or not received." He pulls out a tablet and swipes through several screens. "Here are the electronic receipts showing your hospital's confirmation of transfer orders signed yesterday at 1400 hours. He turns the tablet toward Blackwood, who stares at it in confusion. "I never saw these. They must have been routed incorrectly." "Interesting," Harrington says, sliding the tablet back into his jacket. "Because according to our Pentagon cybersecurity team, the transfer was not only received by your system but was personally viewed by your login credentials at 0830 this morning." His voice hardens. "Exactly 12 minutes before Sergeant Major Williams arrived for his appointment." Nurse Chin gasps softly. Several other staff members exchange glances. This hospital receives significant federal funding for veteran care, Harrington continues. Funding that requires prioritization of combat-related injuries, particularly for decorated veterans with service-connected disabilities. The military doctor looks up from examining Williams. General, we need to move him immediately. The latest scan shows a fragment has shifted within 2 millimeters of the spinal cord. Any further movement could cause permanent paralysis. Harrington nods sharply and turns to one of the uniformed officers. Major Collins, initiate Protocol Delta. I want the surgical team from Walter Reed on standby and a medevac helicopter on the roof in 10 minutes. Major Collins steps away, speaking urgently into his radio. The other military personnel begin clearing a path toward the elevator. What's happening? Blackwood asks, his voice rising with panic. You can't just take over my hospital. Your hospital? Harrington's voice is quiet but cuts like a blade. Memorial General is a recipient of Defense Health Agency grants totaling $17 million annually. Under the National Emergency Medical Services for Veterans Act, that places it under temporary Pentagon jurisdiction when a Medal of Honor recipient is denied urgent care. He turns to address the entire waiting room. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the disruption. Sergeant Major Robert Williams is a genuine American hero. In 1969, during the Battle of Khe Sanh, he single-handedly evacuated 14 wounded Marines while severely injured himself. When a grenade landed among the wounded, he covered it with his own body, absorbing the partial detonation that embedded the fragments now threatening his spine. The room is utterly silent as Harrington continues. For 50 years, he's lived with those fragments as a reminder of his sacrifice. He's never complained, never asked for recognition, and today, when he finally needed help, he was denied basic dignity. Harrington turns back to Blackwood, who has shrunk visibly under the general's words. As of this moment, by authority of the Secretary of Defense, I am placing Memorial General Hospital under temporary Pentagon medical oversight. Administrator Blackwood, you are relieved of duty pending investigation. A military officer steps forward, hand extended. Your credentials and access badges, please. Blackwood's hands shake as he removes his ID badge and surrenders it. This is completely irregular. The board has already been notified. Harrington interrupts, checking his watch. In fact, the hospital's chief of surgery and chief medical officer are currently being briefed on the situation by my staff. They fully support our intervention. The military medical team has now stabilized Williams and prepared him for transport. They gently move him onto a specialized stretcher. Despite his pain, Williams looks up at Harrington. General, this seems like an awful lot of fuss for an old Marine. Harrington's stern expression softens. No, sir, Sergeant Major. This is exactly the right amount of fuss for a man who saved 14 lives, including my father's, and changed the course of countless others. The nation made you a promise when you sacrificed your body. Today, we're keeping it. 2 military police officers escort Administrator Blackwood from the building, his protests falling on deaf ears as they lead him past stunned hospital staff. Inside, a transformation has overtaken Memorial General. Military medical personnel efficiently reorganize the emergency department, with Nurse Chin providing guidance on the hospital's systems. Within an hour of the Pentagon team's arrival, the waiting room atmosphere has completely changed. An Air Force captain now sits at the check-in desk, processing patients with both military efficiency and unexpected warmth. The most urgent cases have already been assigned treatment rooms, with special attention to several other veterans who had been waiting alongside Williams. In a private treatment room, Sergeant Major Williams lies on a specialized medical bed as a neurosurgeon from Walter Reed examines his latest scans. General Harrington stands nearby, his posture still military straight, but his expression softened with concern. The medevac team is 2 minutes out, an aide reports. Operating theater at Walter Reed is prepped and waiting. Williams shakes his head slightly. All this for an old man with some metal in his back. Not just any metal, the surgeon corrects him. And not just any man. As they prepare to transport Williams, a young doctor tentatively knocks on the door frame. It's Dr. Sarah Chin, the nurse who first spoke up for Williams. Excuse me, she says, her voice trembling slightly. I just wanted to thank Sergeant Major Williams before he goes. She steps forward, eyes bright with unshed tears. My father was Michael Chin. He was one of the 14 men you saved at Khe Sanh. Williams looks stunned. Your father was the radio operator? The one who kept calling for evac even with a chest wound. She nods, wiping away a tear. He told me that story my whole life. Said a Marine sergeant with the heart of a lion carried him to safety. He named me Sarah after your daughter. She takes his hand gently. He passed last year, but he never forgot what you did. The room falls silent as the weight of interconnected lives settles around them. Other hospital staff have gathered in the hallway, many now understanding the true story of the unassuming elderly man they had overlooked. As the medevac team arrives to transport Williams, General Harrington addresses the assembled staff. Today is a powerful reminder that heroes walk among us every day, often unrecognized. The measure of our society isn't in how we treat the powerful or famous, but in how we honor the quiet sacrifices that make our freedom possible. He looks around at the humbled faces. Starting tomorrow, Memorial General will implement new veteran identification protocols and staff training. Let today's lesson change how you see every patient who walks through those doors. As they wheel Williams toward the elevator, an elderly woman steps forward from the waiting room and places a small flower from her purse onto a stretcher. Thank you for your service, Sergeant Major, she says simply. One by one, others follow her example. Small gestures of respect from people who hours earlier had been silent bystanders. In that moment, invisible barriers fall away, revealing the profound truth that sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones who ask for nothing in return for their sacrifice.